LSU, Clemson, a national championship game that many have anticipated and desired for the entirety of the 2019 season. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, getting you set for Monday night's championship game in New Orleans. Tigers and Tigers. We will have live streams coming up dedicated to the LSU side and the Clemson perspective leading up to the championship game. Like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe if you love what we do here covering college football. Clemson's pass game against LSU's defensive backs in particular is the focus of today's video. Much like the Clemson-Ohio State game, we're not going to find a ton of weaknesses or really any weaknesses. We're going to find greatness and we're going to find good, solid play in the weakest of units on both of these teams, basically. So let's look at the Clemson offense in the passing game led by Trevor Lawrence against LSU's defense. Clemson averages 292 yards passing per game. We're going to try to put some of these numbers into perspective. Of course, the overall numbers don't mean a ton for these teams as Clemson played an extremely weak schedule. LSU played a difficult schedule. But then at the high end, Clemson played what might be the best team in the country, or certainly one of the top three teams in the country in Ohio State, and one of the top three defenses in the country, most likely, as LSU played a very porous Oklahoma defense, and probably a team that's more in the 6 to 10 range nationally overall. So we can take more from the Clemson-Ohio State game than we can the LSU-Oklahoma game, but we can take more from LSU's season than we can from Clemson's weak ACC schedule, and especially with LSU's defense coming down the stretch playing extremely well, starting against Texas A&M, Arkansas, Georgia in the SEC championship game, and then, of course, against the Sooners, and giving up 28 points, but that was the low mark for the Oklahoma offense, and the 28 points were pretty inconsequential. I would say really 7 of the points mattered. We had a 49-14 game at halftime. So again, Clemson at 292 yards passing per game. LSU was 55th in the nation in yardage per game, given up at 222 per game through the air. Okay, the numbers that matter here, Clemson's rating, their passer rating, of course this is mostly Trevor Lawrence, 161.7. That's a top 5 number in the nation. LSU defensively, in terms of passer rating, at 111.4. That's number 7. With all the LSU defensive issues early in the season, giving up points to Vanderbilt, although 2 of those were defensive touchdowns, Ole Miss, and of course Alabama, and Tua, one of the top 3 to 4 offenses in the country when he's at the quarterback position. The LSU passer rating against is only 111.4, number 7 in the country. They were number 2 in the nation in completion percentage defense at just over 50%. They only allowed 20 touchdown passes, and these are teams that were trailing and passing constantly against them, gave up 20 touchdown passes and picked off 17 passes. Clemson completion percentage at 65.3%, that's number 17 in the nation, and their yardage per attempt at number 12 in the country. LSU at number 20, given up at 6.4. Keep in mind that LSU played a number of prolific passing offenses or really good passing offenses. If you look at Alabama, Oklahoma, Florida really good, Texas, a top 25 passing offense in terms of passer rating. All right, let's look at the previous game. This tells us something about Clemson. I don't think we can completely just take the model against Ohio State and apply it to LSU, but there are certain comparisons that are uncanny in their likelihood and likeness, and that's, of course, the LSU defensive backfield being elite, Ohio State's elite as well. Clemson has faced nothing close to this. Probably Texas A&M would be the most talented of the defensive backfields that they've faced. Trevor Lawrence only hit on 18 of 33 against the Buckeyes, so Ohio State's corners were able to play very well in space against elite wide receiver play at Clemson. Top 5, easily top 5 wide receiver play at Clemson. Actually, I would consider these to be 2 of the 3 best wide receiver units in the country, LSU and Clemson. Just a step ahead of Ohio State and right there with Alabama. So Trevor Lawrence hit on 18 of 33, so way below his average, but 259 yards, no interceptions, 2 touchdown passes. MarkRogers hit up the Buckeyes for one 38-yard play. That was his only catch. DeAndre Overton, 2 catches for 30. Included there was a 27-yarder. And, of course, Justin Ross was hobbled and a bit compromised. Or T. Higgins was compromised a bit in this game. But those were just a couple of 20-yard plays against Ohio State by the wide receivers. So, of course, the changeup for Clemson against the Buckeyes in the fourth quarter and the second half was Travis Etienne out of the backfield as a pass receiver. They couldn't free him up as a running back, 10 carries, 36 yards, but they used him as a pass receiver very effectively. Of course, the game-winning touchdown being the best example. Ohio State brought pressure. They may have the best defensive line in the country. LSU has a very good defensive line, and we'll talk about the personnel in just a second. So there is correlation there. I would say Ohio State's defensive front better than LSU. The secondaries are a toss-up. If I had to give an edge, I'd go LSU, especially Shaun Wade was out of the game the second half, one of Ohio State's better defensive backs. Linebackers go LSU's way over Ohio State in terms of what Clemson is going to face. Statistically, Clemson's top 3 opponents in terms of passer rating defensively: Texas A&M number 26, North Carolina number 45, Florida State number 57. Not much there. Ohio State number 2. And that's one of the reasons why Trevor Lawrence went 18 for 33. Not just the defensive backfield, but the pressure on him caused a lot of missed throws. Trevor Lawrence against Texas A&M, the best pass defense that Clemson had faced before the Ohio State game. 24 of 35, 268 through the air, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He hit on plays of 30, 29, 27, and 25 yards. Those are the big chunk plays. But it was a Clemson team that protected the lead against Texas A&M because the Aggies just couldn't score on them, did need to score a lot of points, and won 24-10. Against North Carolina, the second best pass defense in the regular season that Clemson faced, Lawrence 18 of 30, 206, 1 touchdown, no picks. Okay, the LSU defense, pass defense facing quality opponents. Again, Alabama number 1 in the nation in passer rating, Oklahoma number 4, Florida number 17, Texas 24, Georgia 47. So they faced a lot of really good teams in regards to throwing the ball down the field. Bama, Oklahoma, and Florida all in the top 21 in the nation in yards per attempt. So LSU's statistics in ranking 7th in passer rating defensively holds up pretty well. Tua hit on 21 of 40. So again, LSU was able to limit him in regards to completion percentage and efficiency, but he did throw for 418 and 4 touchdowns with 1 pick. Devonta Smith, of course, ripped up LSU, 7 catches for 213. Jalen Hurts in the semifinal game, only 15 of 31. Jalen Hurts not a great passer, but he's completing much higher than that on a regular basis. So LSU held him down, 15 of 31 for 217, and even those numbers inflated in the second half when it was garbage time. CeeDee Lamb, really the only guy that hurt LSU, and then there was the one play to the tight end in the first half that went down the sideline for a big play. Kyle Trask, a nice day in Death Valley, 23 of 39 for 310, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Basically, Jake Fromm's numbers in the SEC championship game were meaningless. And here's basically what changed for LSU. Offensive mindset this year with Joe Burrow leading the way. The defense took a back seat and really did not play up to LSU standards by any stretch for most of the season. But they got healthy, and with 4 games left to play, Dave Aranda changed the scheme from 3 core defensive linemen to 4. So he brought in 4 defensive linemen for much of the base defense during the final 4 games. K'Lavon Chaisson didn't have as many guys on him rushing from the edge and just took off in the last 4 games with 16 tackles and 4.5 sacks. Glenn Logan, Rashard Lawrence, those guys just did a tremendous job inside, tying guys up. Jacoby Stevens Grant Delpit. Who is going to be the guy that is going to pick up Etienne? Because that certainly gives LSU something to think about. The Etienne factor out of the backfield, because they have a very similar complement in the defensive backfield to pick up and play Clemson's wide receivers honestly. But what do they do about Etienne? They at least have a hint of that, and they have a model for it to say, this is where Ohio State screwed up, let's not screw up there. And they have more athletic linebackers certainly to pick him up. And then, of course, they might want to put a safety on him. Derek Stingley is one of the best players in the country at cornerback. 15 passes defensed, 6 interceptions, 2 of them against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Christian Fulton, a 5-star when he came out as a senior now. On the other side, Kerry Vincent plays a ton at corner. And again, Jacoby Stevens, Grant Delpit, 2 of the best safeties in the nation. Stevens racked up 85 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and 3 picks. And again, Delpit, we know he is one of the best. I think it's going to be much like Ohio State Clemson in that LSU has the premier players at the cornerback position to line up with Clemson. They'll give up some plays, but they will also challenge them like nobody else has challenged them prior to Ohio State. I think LSU is probably better equipped now that they've seen it, number one, but number two, athletically to deal with Travis Etienne out of the backfield. So we're going to see something similar to what we saw most likely against Ohio State in regards to Clemson's going to make plays, LSU's going to make plays. Can LSU turn the ball over defensively, something Ohio State could not do against Trevor Lawrence, as Clemson, of course, beat Ohio State with that final 94-yard drive. Your thoughts about LSU defensively matching up with Clemson's passing offense, and whatever else you'd like to leave in the comments section. Please lock it in right here. Like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, and we will be back with more analysis.